Dyslexia is a common difficulty that causes problems with reading, writing and spelling. It's estimated that 1 in every 10 UK people has some form of dyslexia. But what is it exactly? How do you know if you have it? How are you tested? And how does it affect you? And can comics help?
So, according to the British Dyslexia Association, the definition of dyslexia is that it's a learning difficulty which affects primarily the skills for language, word reading and the encoding of spelling as well.
Okay, is there any certain age where this sort of develops?
It could be any time. Usually children are assessed at an early age, so they get their formal diagnosis on an early age.
Okay.
But some individuals who have not been picked up at school might be picked up later at university in terms of having difficulties with organizational skills or with study skills, not being able to meet deadlines and assignment work is not completed on time.
Now we've spoken to people about sort of comics and how it's helped them to read with dyslexia. Do you know of any sort of recommendation that's given for comics?
I believe that it also depends on the learner. So if the learner is interested in comics and they want to improve their reading, of course this is going to help them because it's something that interests them and they want to read the specific comic. So because they are interested in that, and the language of comics could be, you know, shorter sentences and it's like a dialogue, so that makes it more interesting.
Yeah, and also you've got pictures there as well, so it helps to
yes, it helps with
create the scene.
But any sort of reading will help. And of course, if, for example, they have difficulties with the words being mixed up or jumping around, if they have the color overlay, that will also help with their reading.
But there's no official sort of recommendation for comics or graphic novels?
Not that I'm aware of.
No?
I went to Andrew's home to talk to him and his mum Sarah. I was interested in learning more about when Andrew found out he had dyslexia and what were his signs and how comics helped.
Hi,
Hiya.
Andrew. How's
Am I
it going?
going? Yeah, you want to come in?
Yeah. Got traffic on the way. Hey, one. So I give myself to in a minute. When did you first realise Andrew had dyslexia?
I don't think I realised he had dyslexia, but I knew that he had some kind of learning issue from very young. He struggled even like as a toddler to the usual sort of like picking up words, sentences, that sort of thing. And then it really became clear probably when he was about 2 to 3, started talking. He didn't talk English.
Okay.
He just literally spoke his own language.
Klingon.
It could well have been, who knows? Wouldn't surprise me. But it was a full sentence structures, full everything had its own word.
Okay.
So it was it was like he'd taken in the English language and just mucked it up in his head and repeated it completely differently.
Okay.
It was almost, so in the end I knew what he was saying. No one else did.
Yeah.
But I knew exactly what he was saying because I knew his words for whatever they were. It was really, so he ended up in sort of speech therapy from that. And eventually when he got to school, the only thing he could write was his name.
Okay.
Was the word Andrew. That was the only word he could write. So he wrote Andrew for everything. There are, from like first sort of years in school, there are pages and pages of words of his written work, which is just Andrew, 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 full stop. Capital A, Andrew, 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 full stop. There's pages of it.
To be honest, it sounds like it was obvious.
It was very obvious. It was completely obvious.
It's not a case of, we're not too sure he might be borderline.
No, he was. There was no way. He still was really struggling to read. I don't know if you two did the Biff and Chip books at school.
Oh yeah.
Yes, the Biff and Chip. Yes, so Andrew was really way down for his reading age.
Okay.
compared to the others in his class. It was obvious he was struggling. They made no sense to him whatsoever, so there was plenty of tantrums.
That was sort of the natural progression
Yeah.
into comics then.
Yeah, it was. It was just a natural progression onwards. He just, once he realised he could start to read them, we just bought everything we could get hold of. You know, he read the whole of the Star Wars in comic novel form. Anything that came out in comic novel form that would interest him, we got him really to read and just understand. And that's literally where it all came from. It was just his way of learning to read. But he just got more and more complex and was able to just keep going and to read from them. And then once he then sort of like novels or films he's already seen, stories he already knows,
Okay.
he will read. He then started to read. So because he understood, he could see the image, the pictures of what that went with the words.
Yeah, so it was in the mind getting that structure.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's like he has an absolutely amazing visual memory.
I need to find out if Andrew is a one-off using comics or if it's a popular opinion amongst people with dyslexia. Robin, he works at Close Encounters. I want to know from the man behind the counter selling the comics what he knows about dyslexia and if he knows of others using comics to help them.
Again, it's never really a direct conversation, but we have a lot of people that come in and it is mentioned at points that they have dyslexia or they have trouble reading or in any kind of sense, and they use comics as a way to kind of get into that. You know, it's because of the visual side of things. I think it kind of helps lead the story on and follow what's happening whilst also filling the words in, sort of thing. Does that make sense? Not directly, but it has been mentioned a couple of times that it is helpful and stuff like that, and that the comics are easier to get through and kind of understand and follow. Yeah, so nothing kind of directly up until now, kind of getting prepared for this. Nothing, not a specific conversation,
so
but it has kind of come up vaguely, sort of thing. You know, like saying,
he's never kind of. No one's ever asked like, why do you get so much and stuff like that. And
no, we don't tend to question it. We just like people buying stuff.
that's a fair enough.
But yeah, no, it's definitely been mentioned that comics are a whole of benefit to it.
Okay,
it's definitely been brought up in conversation.
Okay, that's fair enough. So, do you know of anyone else that mainly uses comics, say, to help dyslexia?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's the kind of thing, like I say, the visual aspect of it helps to lead the story along. Helps you kind of, if you're not sure what the conversation is, you can use the image as a kind of guide, and from there kind of work backwards and kind of figure out what the words being said are, judging by the expressions and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think the artwork is quite an important part of it. Also having rather than it being a lump of text, having the text kind of split into these bubbles. If you're struggling with your reading, you can obviously just take it a bubble at a time. You don't have to take the whole page in as you read through. You can kind of take it as at your own pace. On the one hand, yes, because it should be an obvious thing, really. But on the other hand, no, because sadly it's not something that people tend to think about. There's a lot of stuff with comics, not just with dyslexia, but teaching kids to read, learning. It sounds bizarre, but a lot of comics obviously have their social underlying thing, the story that they're telling, and you can learn a lot from them. But it wouldn't surprise me massively, because a lot of people don't consider that as a thing. It's like giving a kid a comic can help them learn to read, but it can also help to teach them about bigger values and the bigger world. Equally for things like dyslexia, for things like learning English as a second language, all that stuff could be helped. Like I said, just all down to the format. Having a visual guide there, having the words broken up into their small sort of chunks, and you can take it at your own pace. You can. And if it's something that the thing with dyslexia I've seen people get when I was at school with friends with dyslexia, you see them getting frustrated about trying to read a passage and not being able to read the whole passage, and it's quite frustrating because they can't kind of continue the flow. Whereas with a comic book, you can almost skip certain bubbles. If you get to a point and you're struggling with what's being said or what's written on the page, you can almost skip it and just keep going and just keep reading the story and enjoy it, because you've got the visual aid. You just skip that bubble and move to the next one, and as long as the artwork's there, you kind of know what's going on anyway.
Comics do seem to be popular among people with dyslexia, but after speaking to Elle, there doesn't seem to be anything official to encourage them to pick up a comic to help them learn to read. And that's surprising, because after speaking to Andrew, it seems to have done him a world of good, and potentially, it could help others. Now, I don't suffer from dyslexia myself. Before meeting Andrew, I couldn't possibly understand how it the individual. So this has been a bit of an eye-opener for me, and a chance to see firsthand how Andrew deals with it and has found a solution.